the Suns, the Heat, the Raptors. What's the latest with KD?
So a few things going on here. First of all, you're not the only one, along with me, who wants this done. So do guys like Deandre Ayton and other players who are – the market tends to stall to a certain degree when a guy like this is available. And certainly if you're Deandre Ayton with the Suns in the mix, that is a situation where that could certainly – you're frustrated. I think the Heat are a real landing spot. I think the Suns are a real landing spot. But, Amanda, what is an unknown, and just talking to people around the NBA, I get different answers, is to what degree Sean Marks, who's the general manager of the Brooklyn Nets, is actually going to play hardball to get the return that he wants. We have seen players over the last few years force their way, not just out of organizations, but to very specific locations. It's become the new normal. That takes away all your leverage. Just player power movement takes away leverage from front offices. If Sean Marks says, no, I'm not doing that, I'm not playing that game, I want the right return, this will draw out longer because you're going to have to not just get the right thing from another team, you have to convince Kevin Durant, we're going to trade you where we want to trade you. That's probably part of the reason there's a delay. But everyone I've talked to still thinks it's probably the Suns. Maybe the Heat could be in the mix, so it's difficult with Bam Adebayo because you can't trade them to the same team because of the complications of the CBA that Ben Simmons are on. So it may take a while. They may have to move on from Ben Simmons if that's even possible. Hard contract to move if they want to go get Bam Adebayo or some of the other players out there who are probably required in the Kevin Durant trade. So part of the reason this is taking so long is even if they give Durant what he wants, it's very complicated, and it's not guaranteed that they will give him what he wants, at least in the short term, which also stretches this process out.
So are you starting to feel like, hey, this may take a little while? I think initially we're like, oh, something's going to happen pretty quick here. But now it seems like we're going to be waiting for a little bit.
I think it will, because you can't just, because of the CBA, you can't have two players on your roster with the designated rookie extension if one gets traded on, if they're not actually a part of the team that you brought in originally. So, for example, you can't bring in Devin Booker if Ben Simmons is there. You can't bring in Trae Young. You can't bring in Bam Adebayo. There's 12 or 13 guys that are under that particular contract. And most of those players are the kind of players that if you're the Nets, you want in exchange for Kevin Durant, especially several of the organizations that are said to be in the mix for Durant services. So you've either got to get different players or you've got to move on Ben Simmons, which is not easy to do for all the reasons and all the drama that's been attached with that guy. So, Amanda, I do think it'll take a while once they decide what they want to do, Brooklyn. And I still think, as I understand it, talking to people, it's an open question to what degree the Nets are really willing to accommodate Kevin Durant. I've heard two things. One, that they're going to accommodate him, but they're pretending they're not. They're trying to drive the price up from Miami and Phoenix, right? They know they have to send him one of those places, but they're going to play like they're not so they can get a little more. But I've also heard from people I trust that they think Sean Marks is going to be pretty set on saying, no, if you want to go, we need the right return. Either way, I think it's going to take a while.
All right, Bill, really quickly, and maybe this answers the question about DeAndre Ayton. The Suns are just going to have to wait to figure out what happens with Kevin Durant. What's the latest with him and James Harden?
Yeah, I think that is a big part of it. And there's another reason there could be a delay, that if the Nets value DeAndre Ayton, and not everyone does, you have to move on from Kyrie Irving as well, because if you bring in a player on a sign and trade, which presumably they would do with DeAndre Ayton, you immediately become hard capped. So the Nets would be hard capped. They're in the luxury tax right now. So just the math gets really tricky. DeAndre Ayton's going to have to wait either till the Nets make up their mind, or if the Nets decide that they want Ayton as part of a deal, to try it until they get rid of Kyrie Irving, or, not to make this too complicated, if there's a 3-team trade to send Ayton somewhere else to a team that's able to deal with the hard cap, well, then that takes a while too, because there's more pieces of play. So DeAndre Ayton, like you, Amanda, like me, we just all have to wait for the Kevin Durant saga probably to get resolved.
Yeah, remember how we didn't get our invite to that party? James Harden actually posting something on social media, hanging with some billionaires. It's hard for me to get starstruck. So still a little salty about that. Bill Ryder, thank you so much for joining us here on HQ to go through the latest around the NBA, some of the summer league action we get. Taking a look at the latest odds to win the 2023 NBA championship. Right now it is the Celtics at the top, followed by the Warriors and Suns. Of course, a lot of this could change depending where Kevin Durant.
Yeah, you know what? And all of this because KD is saying, I want out of here, too. I mean, let's not forget the fulcrum of all of this. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Until there's some resolution, people are going to be asking, where's Kevin Durant going to land? Mm-hmm. There are all sorts of variables at work here, from roster makeup to salary cap and beyond. But I'd love to know from you, Coach, where you think KD's going to play next season. The Heat are a team a lot of people are talking about lately. What's it going to take for KD to get to Miami?
Yeah, when you look at Miami and the potential landing spots for Kevin Durant, obviously their names come up because, have some young assets, specifically a guy like Tyler Hero. You know, Tyler Hero is a guy that would be included in this trade. And if you pair up Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo in a trade scenario like this, that's something that can make, obviously, the Heat very dangerous. Kyle Lowry, who was basically injured towards the end of the season, he came up short. But we know Jimmy Butler, man, this guy is a monster. He can get the job done. And if for some reason they can make the money work, again,